The city of Detroit is honoring the Jackson 5. The Jacksons are one of the first groups of African Americans to get a crossover following, and they got their start nearly half a century ago, where they first worked at the Motown Studios right here in Detroit. Now, this morning, one of the youngest members of the group, Marlon Jackson, is in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So what brings you to Detroit?
I miss Detroit, so I decided to come to Detroit. No, I'm just kidding. No, Detroit has this music festival that they do every year. And so they called us and wanted us to come in and headline the music festival. And the great thing about it is that it's free to the public. It's something that Detroit is doing for the people here in Detroit, because I understand it's growing so rapidly and things are turning around, and so they appreciate the support of their citizens. And this is kind of a give back to them in the same breath. And so they do this music festival. And then they also are honoring, we kind of started here. We started out in Gary, Indiana.
Absolutely.
With my mother and my father, doing what they can do. Then they passed the baton over to Berry Gordy here in Detroit, Motown. So I do remember recording our first album here in Detroit at the Hitsville, USA studio.
That's right.
And so it all started there, and our first 4 records went to #1, and everything from there just skyrocketed. And so Detroit is appreciating those things, and by bringing us in, naming a street after us, it's called the Jackson 5 Street.
Jackson 5 Street. How does that feel to have, Detroit, name a street after the Jackson 5?
Well, to just have a street named after you is rewarding within itself, and to have someone to appreciate the work that you do. And what people really don't understand is this whole thing that Detroit is doing. Music is a universal language, so it's more or less about bringing people together in harmony and peace through the love of music. And they're going to have all kind of music, all genres of music, and it's going to be for the citizens here in Detroit. So you all come out and support your city, because they've been doing great things for you guys, and this is a give back to you all. So go out and support them, and Detroit, keep growing, because it's beautiful out there.
And come hear some great music when the music festival starts. To be able to hear the Jackson 5 for free is an amazing gift. Now, what was it like to grow up in the spotlight? I mean, we think about our own childhoods, and everyone thinks their childhood is normal, but your childhood...
It was normal.
It was normal, but it was bright. Those lights had to be bright.
Well, see, when you start so young, I started doing this when I was 8 years old and signed with Motown. I think I was 9 or 10, and it was second nature for us. We just enjoyed doing the music, so we really didn't pay attention to the spotlights or anything of that nature. Believe it or not, we used to perform. We had school 3 hours a day. We had curfew. We had to be in bed at a certain time. And that stuff just stuck with me as I got older. And it's the same thing goes. We get our rest, and we make sure that we take care of ourselves. And so I've had a great life. I can't change it for anything, because I've gotten the chance to travel the world and experience the various cultures the world has to offer, which I think everybody should see.
Now, obviously, music is still a big part of your life, but what are some of the other endeavors? Tell us a little bit about Steady Peace.
Well, it's a foundation that I started called the Marlon Jackson Steady Peace Foundation, and we build playgrounds. And I have this thing that I want to try to, my little way of help changing the world, reshaping the world. Because one of the things that we don't understand is that we study war, we study medicine, we study technology, but we never studied peace. Our world leaders and heads of states, we get so angry at each other because of our differences. Mm-hmm. And I'm like this. You have a lot in common. Why don't you look at what you have in common and work from that angle? You're going to find that you have more things in common than you do have in difference. So that's my thing, is trying to, with the kids, bring them up and try to shape them into a right.
Study Peace with the Marlon Jackson Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. If you want to check out the Jackson 5, it is June 14th through the 17th. That's the Detroit Music Weekend. The Jackson 5 are performing Saturday, June 16th. It's a free concert at 9 p.m. Thank you so much, Mr. Jackson.
Come on out. Let's have some fun here in Detroit, because this is where it all started.